So moving onward here. Number 3, prior knowledge accelerates learning. Prior knowledge accelerates learning. And all that means is that the more you know about a subject, the faster you'll learn new information about that subject. So one of the challenges that we have, especially those elementary students, is they don't have much prior knowledge about academic subjects that we want to teach. They don't have much, they don't come into the classroom, or we don't start homeschooling them with them having all of this experience with letters and numbers and grammar and science and history events and facts. They haven't lived long enough to really understand what we mean about history. They don't have enough life experiences. They haven't really been introduced to the abstract world of molecular science, chemistry, physics. All this is new. And so young children, have a lot of misunderstandings, and they don't have a lot of acceleration to their learning because they don't have enough background knowledge, they don't have enough experience to draw upon. Think about your own life. Maybe you like to cook, for example. Maybe you like to ski. Think of something that you know a lot about. If you're going to read an article about a topic you understand well, even if it would be fairly complex and abstract, if you have a lot of background knowledge and experience with that topic, you're going to breeze through that article very quickly. So we need to remember this when we're working with our kids. If we're starting, French for the first time, we're going to start a foreign language. These kids haven't grown up in a bilingual home, and they haven't heard another language often besides English, let alone try to speak it. It's going to take a lot more time and patience and understanding with them at the beginning of the year and in the earlier years, and at the beginning of introducing a subject such as, let's say, algebra, because they don't have much prior knowledge to draw upon. And we need to encourage them, and we as teachers and parents shouldn't get discouraged because it's taking them so much time here at the beginning, because once they start to get prior knowledge, they'll start to pick up speed. Things will really progress, and they'll be able to learn a lot more new content later in the year, or when they're older, or after they studied this subject for a couple years. Like, so Algebra 1, kids can really struggle with Algebra 1, and then we're surprised they don't struggle with Algebra 2 or trigonometry if they've mastered Algebra 1 because they have the prior knowledge that they need. Hey, so what are we going to do if you as a teacher are teaching biology and you realize, hey, I got kids in this class that they have no clue. They seem to have no background knowledge. You're an English teacher and you realize this child doesn't really have any kind of fundamental understanding of English grammar, doesn't know how to write a sentence, and I've got kids that are willing to really move on. You've got kids of differing abilities in the class. I mean, what can we do to help these kids hang in there, catch up, support their learning? I think when we realize that prior knowledge is missing, then we've got to help them in some way. So some of the things that I did with my kids, or that I recommend, is read a children's book about the topic. All right? Read, if you're going to study physics or weather, let's say, meteorology, let's start with that. You can find a children's book that would be actually very simplistic. Children's books tend to, first of all, they have lots of pictures, and they also tend to simplify big ideas. And so one of the critical parts of the learning process in any subject is for kids to know what are the big ideas in French, in English grammar, in literature, in Algebra 1, in physics, in psychology. What are the big ideas? Well, a children's book tends to distill it down to what those big ideas are, that we as parents can then tell them, hey, this is something you need to think about. Let's talk about that. This will help you get ready for this class that you have online. It's maybe be a little bit more difficult, and it's something that we as teachers can recommend to our students. I always, I taught online 10 years, before actually launching AIM Academy, and I kept adding to my website resources where kids, because I was always getting students at very different levels, and so I developed a library of resources where I could refer kids if they needed more background knowledge. I also tried to equip my students by teaching them about how they learn so that they could take some ownership in developing their own study skills and helping themselves. So watching a video can also be a quick way to get some prior knowledge to help our kids with subjects that they're struggling with. Taking a field trip, again, can be another quick way. I mean, there's no replacement for the skill and the understanding and the speed with which we can learn when we're studying a subject that we've really devoted time to. But some of our kids are in challenging situations in the curriculum. We're working with them in school or in classes that they're taking, and you need some fast ways of getting some prior knowledge, then these are a couple of tips that you could use to support them, help them.